Hello and welcome to DevSpot. Today I'm going to be showing you how to secure an API gateway using AWS Cognito User Pools. So we're only going to allow people that are in the user pool to have access to our API gateway. And I actually got this idea from Daniel S. He left a comment underneath my View Navigation Guards video asking if we could go a little more in depth rather than just kind of protecting the front end part of the project. He wanted to know how to secure the back end of the project. So today we're going to be going over pretty quick how to secure our API gateway. So let's go ahead and get into it. Our first step here is going to be create a Lambda function. You go ahead and click create Lambda function, and then we'll give it a sample name. We'll just call it test Lambda. And then we're going to go ahead and create this function and let it load for us here. Should only take just a little bit of time here. Alright, so there we go. So now you can see that our function has been successfully created. You can go down here and you can see all the sample code, and we're just going to leave it like that. We're trying to show how to just secure it, so I'm not going to go ahead and mess with the Lambda function. But then our next step here, we're going to go into our API gateway, click Create API. We're going to use a REST API here. So go ahead and click Build on that. We're going to have a REST API, a new API, and then let's go ahead and give it an API name. We'll go with Test Auth API. Endpoint regional. Everything's looking good, so we can go ahead and create this API. Okay, the API is created, and now we're going to want to go ahead and create we're actually going to want to create a resource here, not a method right away. So let's create our resource. Let's give it a random name of, let's say, let's go with test auth. Yeah, that works. We're going to go ahead and enable API gateway cores. This handles certain different cores issues that you might have. And then within our resource here, our test auth resource, let's create a get method. Make sure that you're in the correct region here to have access to that Lambda function. So we're in US East 2, and we want to access that test Lambda function that we set up. I'm going to go ahead and enable or use this Lambda proxy integration. It allows just for these videos to go smoother, because you can have more custom settings, but we're going to go with all the generic settings here. So there we go. We have a test auth method inside our API gateway with a get method. So let's go ahead and test this to see if we have access to our Lambda function, and you can see here hello from Lambda, so you can see that we're pulling that in from the Lambda function that we set up over here. Let's go ahead and refresh this, and you can see that it'll add a trigger over there, which means that we have successfully connected our Lambda function right there. So our Lambda function is successfully created with our API gateway, and they're able to communicate with one another. And now we're going to want to set up an authorizer. Okay, so go ahead and click Create New Authorizer. Let's give this a just some random name for this project. Let's go with API Authorizer. Spell it correctly. Alright, so then let's click Cognito here, because we're not using Lambda here. We're going to want to authorize with Cognito, and go ahead and click the Cognito User Pool that you're going to use. I'm going to use this user pool that I have already set up, but you can set that up on your own. Add a token source, which we're going to call authorization. So that means in our header, we're going to have an authorization header that you send the user's token in. Okay, so we have our authorization token connected with the user pool of your choice. Okay, so then let's go back to our resources here, and inside our actions, we're going to want to deploy this API. So that I'm just going to show you here what it looks like before we actually add that authorizer. So go ahead and give it a stage name of production. And there we go. We have a API gateway up and running. Let's go ahead and see if we can get the Lambda's return data here. I'll open this in a new tab, and it should say hello missing authentication. Oh, yep, because we're going to want to add our endpoint or our resource name there. So test auth, hello from Lambda. Perfect. There we go. So this is before we have added authorization to the gateway. So now let's go ahead into our resource settings here. So click our resource there. Go to our method request, and here you want to add the authorization method. And usually you have to kind of refresh here to get the settings to show up that you added, or the authorizer to show up. I'm not sure why, but that you might run into that issue. So just click refresh on that, and it'll say in our authorization drop down here, it'll add that API authorizer. So whatever you named your authorizer, it'll show up there. Okay, let's click OK there. Not going to mess with any of these settings either. I'm just going over the basics here just to kind of get you a very basic authorizer setup here. So then let's go ahead and deploy this API again, because if we don't deploy it, then these settings aren't updated on the API. Okay, so we have our deployment stage of production. I'm going to add a description of we added our authorizer there. So let's go back to our URL here. Let's refresh it again. It obviously hasn't updated. So there we go. So you can see we haven't sent a header in with this URL, so it's going to say, hey, you're not authorized. So a great tool to use here is Postman. This is what I'm using here. So we have a GET request, and inside our headers here for the GET request, we're going to add that authorization header that we set up earlier in the authorizer. And then you're going to want to have pull in the correct token for this GET request here. So let's actually put in the URL we want. We have our authorization header set up, but we need to get access to the correct token. Okay, so I have a project over here that I'm using Amplify. This allows me to have access to the different tokens. So here we have our access token, and we're going to go ahead and copy this JWT and put it in our authorization header. Get rid of those quotation marks. We don't need those. And let's go ahead and see what we get here. Okay, so we have a 401 unauthorized. So we obviously did something incorrect along the way, so let's work our way through this. Let's check. So if we look here, we have a JWT set in there, but it's actually the wrong one. I went with the access token. You're actually going to want the ID token for this, okay? This can be a common mistake, so let's leave this in the video, so hopefully somebody might find that helpful. So this is the access token. I'm going to replace that access token with the ID token, and we should, hopefully, there we go, hello from Lambda. So now you can see we have the correct token in there, and we get the response from our Lambda function. So let's say somebody sends an incorrect token. It'll say, hey, you're unauthorized. So there you go. So you have a very basic and honestly a super quick video here showing how to secure that API gateway using your Cognito User Pool. So on your project side, all you'd have to do is just send headers with your request to the API, send a header with an authorization name and the correct token of the user that's signed in, and you'll end up getting your data back. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video useful. I tried to keep it short and sweet. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other topics you'd like me to cover, and then I can go ahead and do that for you. So yeah, shout out to Daniel for pointing that out to me on the navigation guards video. Yeah, this was fun. So thanks. Tune in for the next videos.